I'll now call to order the Monday, July 11th, 2011 informational meeting of the Sioux Falls City Council. Welcome to all our guests here at Carnegie, and welcome to our guests on Channel 16 or on the Internet. We'll begin today's meeting with a report by City Council staff, Deborah A. Owen, City Clerk, Chief of Council Operations.
Thank you and good afternoon, Sioux Falls City Council. In order to expedite today's meeting, I'm going to forgo my report and bring it next week. So please continue.
Thank you, Deborah. Fiscal Committee, report from the Tuesday, July 5th. Councilor Brown.
Most of the members beyond the committee, most of the council members were at that meeting, but just a brief update. We spent most of our time on contract authorizations. We are going to continue that. I sent an email to the fiscal committee today. I need to reschedule. We're looking to use the 5 o'clock slot next Monday because I don't believe we have a joint meeting with the county. Did we confirm that, Deborah?
Yes. Yes, okay. That's available.
Well, let's plan on meeting at 5 o'clock here next Monday to continue that discussion. That will be the only topic of that meeting.
Any questions for Councilor Brown? If not, Councilor Anderson Jr., would you give us a preview to tonight's Public Service Committee meeting?
We will be taking a look at some revisions of the Health Department's ordinances dealing with 14-day notice requirement and issuing nuisance violations.
Thank you. Any questions for Councilor Anderson Jr.? If not, we'll go on to City Council open discussion. And I have the privilege this afternoon of introducing to all of you through conference call our candidate for Director of the Siouxland Library System, Mary Johns. So,
good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mary. Did you have something that you'd like to tell the audience before we have the counselors ask questions?
I certainly would. I really, first of all, want to say that I am absolutely thrilled about this opportunity. And I haven't been this excited in a very long time. And my visit to Sioux Falls confirmed everything I've heard about the progressive community and the library system. And I was completely taken by surprise and pleasure when I was there. It felt so wonderful to be in Sioux Falls, and so I'm very anxious to join the team to continue delivering library service throughout our community and making it the absolute best it can be.
Thank you, Mary. Would you like to tell the council and the audience why you won't be here this evening for our vote?
Well, it seems that the City Council in Evanston, Illinois and Sioux Falls, South Dakota meet at the exact same time. And so I will still be at the City Council meeting here in Evanston tonight. And my last day here will be on Friday. And I will then be coming to Sioux Falls to secure housing and get ready to join you in person at future council meetings, should you decide that's the right choice. And I hope you do.
Thanks, Mary. Are there any questions for Mary from the council? Councilor Erpenbach.
Thank you, Councilor Aguilar. Are you going to repeat the questions for Mary? Is that how this is going to work, or does Mary hear me when I'm doing this?
I have no idea.
I hear you.
Okay, good. Thank you, Mary. I was delighted to meet you at an open house when you were here for your interviews. I wanted you to just kind of give us a brief assessment, and very brief, obviously, but of the library system as you saw it. You were only here for a couple of days, but I know you've done some research. You talk to us a little bit about the library system and kind of what you see as challenges for the future as you come into this job.
As I told several people when I was there, I walked into the main library, and it felt exactly like I believe a library should feel to a customer coming in. I walked in, it was bright and open, welcoming, people were friendly, it was easy to find my way around, there was technology apparent all over, and that was a very good sign for me, because that told me that indeed Siouxland has been paying attention to what's moving along in the trend and taking action to do that. Then we visited all of the branch libraries, and again, I was particularly taken at the activity levels at the branches, as well as has all of the facilities after having just been in your newly renovated main library. Then being in the branches, I was completely impressed again at the condition of the facilities. And that, I think, is just an extremely important part of what we do, that we can have all the resources in the world, but if we don't have facilities that are warm and welcoming and can help people use them in an easy way, then we aren't quite hitting our mark. And then I was actually very pleased to be able to visit some of the rural libraries, as first of all, I grew up with the bookmobile, so it was fun to see the children's bookmobile. But clearly, we're looking at a wide variety of needs and resources and experiences in the community. And I think what I saw was a lot of enthusiasm and positive attitude among staff members who want to do that. So our challenges certainly are going to be sustainable funding kinds of things, because we all know that no matter where we are in this country, there are issues with funding and keeping up with the technology and becoming and remaining for a period of time anyway, that 21st century library where people have greater expectations from us, and so we want to be able to be nimble and respond to those needs and anticipate them.
If I might just add to that just a little bit, Mary, you talked a little bit about being a 21st century library system. Can you talk a little bit more about what your vision might be? Will this library system grow? Will it, or are there things that you see already before you're even in the job that you would like to see as your vision for this system?
Well, I think one of the things that we have to do as a 21st century library is that, once again, the library is changing. It does this like the rest of life. And people expect a third place kind of environment. And there's a lot more collaborative learning and experiences going on among the members of our community. So we need to be able to address those needs. And the technology is one way of doing that. Another thing that we need to look at is how do we apply that technology and make sure that we're using our resources and putting them in the most effective places in order to achieve that. And we have to look for innovation. And I think one of the things that I noticed right away when I walked into the main library was the absence of the big, imposing reference desk, so that people are much more approachable, the staff is, and customers are much more likely to feel like they're not interrupting someone and having more of a dialogue. And I think those kinds of things are important. A lot of it is looking, again, at the collaborations and how can we become a more integral part of the community. It's evident, too, that people appreciate and support the library in Sioux Falls. But there's always room for us to be a bigger player and a partner with other organizations and agencies that have like kinds of missions or agencies that have need of services that maybe they've not thought about the library as a partner before. I can give you an example of that. We just opened up a WorkNet center in our library. The Illinois Department of Economic Security lost their lease in Evanston, and so their services went away. But there was a group that provided job search and career counseling, and so we were able to work with that group and offer up space for lease for them in the public library, and the numbers have just been going through the roof of people utilizing that service. So I think there are ways that we can look at that in Sioux Falls as well.
Good to know. Thank you, Mary. I appreciate you taking on this challenge.
Any other questions? If not, Mary, thank you so much for taking time this afternoon to talk with us. And
absolutely.
We hope to see you in Sioux Falls soon.
I certainly hope so, too. That's what I'm planning on.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you all very much. All right. Bye now.
Bye. Any further council discussion? Councilor Jameson?
For about the last year, I've been working with the Parks Department, the Airport Authority, the Air National Guard, the Game, Fish, and Parks Department, trying to work on that wildlife management plan. You guys remember us talking about that? It's been a while in the works. Well, we've got it all pretty well worked out. The park board is looking at it this month, and they'll make a decision of whether they support it or not. The Airport Authority has already signed off that they do support it. But the question was, in order to expedite it, what would be the best fashion to move it through to the City Council? Would you like to see it in an informational? Would you like to send it directly to a committee to work on it, to look at it? This wildlife plan is dealing with all the wildlife in our city, policies and procedures to manage them in an appropriate way, things like that.
Comments from the council?
We could have them do a presentation at an informational coming up, and then from there maybe decide, but I thought I'd get the ball rolling.
Councilor Brown?
I think probably having the chair sign it to a committee is probably the best approach and work through it that way.
Public Services, then? Okay, we'll assign it to Public Services. Councilor Anderson Jr.?
Greg, is this the same type of program that we were working last year with the deer and everything,
Right.
too?
It's exactly the same issues, but it's dealing with geese as well, like how do you handle them on the golf courses. The real issue is managing their nesting areas in or around the airport to make sure that they're not interfering with air traffic. So, Public Services,
Public Services okay with you, Councilor Jameson?
as long as it's not fiscal, we're good.
All
All right,
right.
very good. I'll let them know that, and Kenny, we'll get in touch with you.
Okay, thank you.
Further, Councilor Rolfing?
I noticed in the paper this weekend, and something that's been near and dear to my heart. It's part of our church that's had a Sudanese congregation in for many years, and noticed that the southern Sudanese now have their own country, South Sudan, and so I would like to congratulate the population and the people in Sioux Falls who are part of that country, or were part of that country, are now United States citizens, and but are still very proud of their country, their former country, on the formation of their own country, South Sudan. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Brown?
One other item, and I want to do this in part because Evan Nolte and Bob O'Connell are here from the Chamber. We've been working on inviting the 105 legislators to Sioux Falls. This is a program I worked with the Chamber a number of years ago to begin, and they have run with it, and they've done a fabulous job. And you'll be getting more information soon. The legislators are invited to come in town the evening of the 18th, and Bob and his team are putting together a full agenda to take them around the city and explain some of the challenges and issues going on in Sioux Falls that would affect them when they make decisions in the legislative session. So you'll be getting more information about that, but I just wanted to get it on your calendars and also thank the Chamber for their work on that.
Thanks.
18th of August is that evening, and the 19th.
Other council discussion? If not, I'd like to call Director Smith up. We had some questions on tonight's agenda, item 11.
Yes, good afternoon. Darren Smith, Director of Community Development. And item 11 is a resolution asking the City Council to allow the City of Sioux Falls to submit a grant, an industrial park grant, to get dollars from a state, South Dakota DOT Industrial Park Grant Fund to help build North Bonson Avenue, which is in Industrial Park 8. And we'll have an exhibit tonight and all that. We didn't know if you had time for that today, so we didn't bring that, but we will have it tonight. Industrial Park 8 is in the northeast part of Sioux Falls, so if you can, you know where Sanford corporate offices are now? You jump across 229 to the east. That's Industrial Park 8. So it is bordered on the east by 229, on the west by 229, on the east by Sycamore, on the south by Benson, and on the north by 60th Street. So if you can kind of figure out where that is. North Bonson Avenue would be the major north and south road. And then in that industrial park, right in the heart of the industrial park, and everything would go off of that in terms of access to the different parcels and future developments. And with that, I guess I don't want to go into too much detail, not knowing exactly what the questions are, and again, we'll have a presentation tonight.
Any questions, Councilor Erpenbach?
Just a couple questions, Darren. Can you tell us a little bit about the structure? Because I know there are more grants that we're going to apply for the same project. Can you tell us about that, just briefly again?
Yeah.
But also with that idea in mind of why is it that you need council approval for this particular kind of grant?
Yeah, and I think what I'd like to do, if it's okay with you, Brent O'Neill from our office has really been working with this project from day one Lynn Keller-Forbes of CCOG is also in the audience today, and she'll be here tonight if necessary. CCOG is actually going to put the application together for us because they have experience with this and other grants. Brent, do you want to come up and just share a little bit?
Hello, Brent O'Neill with Community Development. To the first question on other sources, we are looking at multiple sources, and we do hope that one can come to fruition later this fall, which would be much larger. It would be through the Economic Development Administration, and a grant there that we might be able to apply for, paying for up to half of the cost of that road. To the second question, and Lynn can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is part of the parameters of applying for the grant. The DOT in this case wants the city council's blessing behind that application, and just for us to recognize that there are some certain parameters of their grant program that we acknowledge from the onset.
Great. Thanks,
Okay.
Brent.
Any other questions? If not, we look forward to seeing you this evening. Thank you. We'll now go on to presentations, and first we'll hear from Director Jill Franken on Sioux Falls Community Health Status Report.
Good afternoon, Jill Franken, Sioux Falls Health Director. I'm pleased to be here today, and I will be sharing an introduction with you regarding our health status report that we have pulled together for the City of Sioux Falls. And then once I get done with a little introduction, Alicia Kalura, Assistant Health Director, will then outline for you and highlight some of the trends that we're seeing with the data that we've collected, as well as next steps regarding this report. About 18 months ago, give or take, started working on the idea that we needed to know what the health status was of the City of Sioux Falls. More and more, whether it's through Health and Human Services, Center for Disease Control, and other South Dakota Department of Health, we're seeing more and more of an emphasis of looking at prevention, wellness, and how are you looking at your data and your trending to be able to influence that trending to improve the outcomes of your communities. Well, if we're being challenged to do that, whether it be through subpopulations or the community as a whole, we have to know what is our data telling us. We have to know how good that data is and whether or not we want to get and help assist with collecting additional data as needed. So we set out to start looking at that, and there's many ways that it was that we started looking at what do we need, and several of the things that are happening around the country and with our nation are through such things as the Affordable Care Act, where Health and Human Services is really leading that effort to reform health care in our country. We also see through the Centers for Disease Control that they've selected winnable battles that they've really focused on, and some of what we have in our report will be able to be influenced by that, where they're picking several disease entities or chronic diseases or issues within our country, and they're actually winnable. They're actually things that we can influence. And so some of that we will look at with regard to our report as well. And then also Secretary Sebelius, through Health and Human Services, has sprinkled in her goals and objectives for our country to really look at prevention and wellness as well. So where we started with was looking at what is considered a functional health department. And our National Association of City and County Health Officials identifies 10 key pieces of what you should be looking at that can tell you you are running a functional health department. And the 10 items are right here before you of what those are considered most important. And those that are bolded are the ones that we felt like we needed to really focus on in our department. 7 of those 10, when we reviewed what we have in place, whether it be ordinance, whether it be procedurally how we manage ordinance and policies that we have within our department, the work we do through Falls Community Health and other items, we really felt like 7 of those we do a really good job with. It was the 1st, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So let's see, 6 of 10, I should say. So 4 of those were those items that we really felt like we needed to be influencing and doing more work on. And the first one is monitor the health status and understand health issues of what's in our community. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Then the third one is that you see listed of those 10 are give information needed to make healthy choices in your community. The next is engage the community to identify and solve health problems. And then lastly, develop public health policies and plans around that effort. So we decided to dip our toe in the water and see what we had available. And next slide, please. We looked at obtaining data that could tell us where our health status is. And so obtaining and maintaining data that provides information on the community's health is one of the first things that we needed to look at. The next is develop relationships with others that have information that we can use. So how do we look at our partners within the community at large and look at ways that we perhaps can identify data enhancements and ways that we can get better data in the community. Conduct periodic community health assessments. That is something that there are many tools out there now and technical assistance that can be provided to our community to look at doing community health assessments. And then analyze data and identify trends. So, a couple of examples of things that we find that are really going to be some valuable resources in this area are ways that we can influence the state of South Dakota in their data collection. One of their new employees and health professionals that they have there is a chronic disease epidemiologist. Many of you have heard the name Lon Keitlinger. He's been the state epidemiologist for quite a long time. We also have now a chronic disease epidemiologist at the state level, and as it relates to this data, he's going to be extremely helpful in moving this forward and has been an early partner with us in developing this report. The next, what we will be doing is exchanging this information and data with others. Some of what we're doing this week now is getting the data out that we have collected thus far and exchanging it with others. And then also provide health promotion programs to address those health problems. What do we as the city have the desire to do? What can we collaborate with others? How can we collaborate to influence these outcomes and these trends that we're seeing? Next, then, is being able to promote the community's understanding of health. How do we become better educated and knowledgeable about what we consider to be good health in our community? Create partnerships with others to support improved health. So what are those partnerships that are going to be key to get us to the aims that we think we want to achieve in the community? And how do we inform community and policymakers about services provided and gaps and areas of need? How do we keep you informed about the status of our health in our community? And what do you want for information as far as what we need to be looking like as a community that's healthy? A lot of what we deal with on the clinical side is benchmarking. And that's something that we would be looking at is how do we look at communities who have better health outcomes than we do in certain areas, and how do we want to benchmark against those communities? What are they doing that is working, and how do we perhaps want to bring some of those strategies into our community? And then lastly, we will advocate for policies that lessen health disparities and look at ways that we can target those health disparities, populations that have health disparities, whether it be physical, behavioral, environmental, or societal factors and conditions that affect the health of our community. So, when you look at, and you've heard me talk about this before, when you look at these components of what we can do to improve the trends in our community for those areas that we feel we can have some influence, it's whatever we do on the front end, low-cost efforts to improve our health outcomes on the front end with prevention and wellness strategies do so much on the back end to save on the cost of health care on the back end. So that's some of what we'll keep in mind as we move forward. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Alicia Kalura to share some of the information in the report.
Thank you. I am Alicia Kalura, the Assistant Director of Public Health Operations, and I'm just going to continue on by giving a little bit of a timeline now of how the report was developed. And in 2010, we started to drill down and see what data was available, and it's actually fairly minimal for just the 150,000 citizens that are under the charge of the health department. So I want to describe where much of our data comes from, which is the CDC's behavioral risk factor surveillance system. And this is a health survey that's administered through the states to collect data on health risk behaviors in all communities so that Sioux Falls can compare themselves to the state, but also national trends and other metropolitan statistical areas in the country. From this data that's commonly referred to as the BRFIS data, we were able to look at health indicators such as asthma, cardiovascular disease, mental health, obesity, diabetes, and oral health. After we came up with the first drafts of the report, we did vet them through several folks in the community, including the Sioux Falls Hypertension Initiative team, also representatives from the 2 hospital systems, and the state nutritionists and state epidemiologists. So we had very good support for this document and ideas to incorporate in future versions. And then currently that brings us today where we're bringing this report to you and the public and other policymakers for review and public comment. I'll start with a positive trend that we've seen over time, and the BRFIS data is showing us that since 2002, our citizens that are self-reporting as smokers has improved from 24% in 2002 to 15% in 2009. That does compare well within our state and also nationally. The state reported in 2009 that 17.5% were smokers and nationally 18%. The next trend that I'll talk a little bit about is substance abuse. We highlighted drinking actually in this specific version of the report to you. Heavy drinking is on a decline, but as you'll see, binge drinking is on an increase. So what the exact explanation is of that, we don't have an analysis of. It could be that habits are changing generationally. It could be that people have a better understanding of what binge drinking is, and so are identifying themselves as such. How we compare with heavy drinking, 3% for Sioux Falls, 4% for South Dakota, and 5% nationally, so we compare well. Binge drinking, on the other hand, while 19% of Sioux Falls and South Dakota reported binge drinking behavior, nationally the average is 15.5%. The next 2 trends I'll discuss are cardiovascular disease. You can see that our trend line is not moving in the right direction. Since 2003, we've risen from 4 to 5% on the folks that are reporting that their doctor has told them they have high blood pressure. At this point, we're 25% of our area. South Dakota is reporting 30%, and nationally is reporting about 29%. Next slide. We have the same trend line for citizens that are reporting they've been told they have high cholesterol. Again, we compare well against the state and the nation, but our trend line is going in the wrong direction. Go ahead. That brings us to obesity, and with obesity, we're right in line with all of the other news reports that we've heard, the trends that we're seeing nationally. If you combine, well, first of all, the number of overweight, the people reporting as overweight, that's declining, but we're increasing on obesity. So, if we're truly declining, or if we're just getting a little heavier into that obese category, that's certainly up for analysis. But 67% of the Sioux Falls MSA is reporting as overweight or obese. If you just break out obesity, Sioux Falls is identifying at 29% obese, South Dakota 30%, and nationally 27%. When we look at students in our Sioux Falls School District, unfortunately we have the same trend, where at 2010 data collected from Sioux Falls school districts is showing that 1 in 3 Sioux Falls students is overweight or obese. What's to account for the obesity that we're finding? Well, one could be that we're trending downwards in the amount of physical activity that our citizens are reporting. And then also, next slide, surprised to see actually that Sioux Falls is one of the lowest, if not the lowest, consumers of fresh fruits and vegetables in the nation. 12% of our citizens are reporting that they eat 5 or more fruits and vegetable servings a day. For South Dakota, that's 16%, and nationally, that's 23%. So certainly consumption of fruits and vegetables and a decrease in activity could be a factor when we're looking at obesity and cholesterol and high blood pressure and all of those indicators. The indicators that I reviewed with you are not the extent of what's in the report, but it's just a few highlights to share with you today. Next, I'll go to opportunities. Bringing together this report is just the start of how we need to look at this community-wide, but what are our opportunities that we currently have? Well, one area that the Health Department can focus on is strengthening our community partnerships. For instance, this year we participated with the Sioux Falls Hypertension Initiative, and this initiative was a grassroots effort between public and private entities to bring hypertension and high blood pressure awareness to our local citizens. What started out as very local, maybe within a few Lewis drugstores, has turned into May 2011. We were able to collect over 2,500 blood pressures for our citizens. So that does a couple of things. First, we were able to bring awareness and refer people to primary care if necessary. But also, now we'll be able to use that data that was collected to compare to our self-report data and to gather a more broad picture of our blood pressure health. Another avenue we're pursuing is interdepartmental partnerships. In 2011, we've reached out to HR Wellness and also the Parks and Recreation Department so that we can together evaluate and apply for health-related funding and activities. At the state level, we're partnering to apply for our Community Transformation Grant. There's a fair amount of funding available that will infuse federal funds into state and local economies just for health and wellness activities. So that grant is going in the next couple of weeks, and so we should hear a result of that within a couple of months. Finally, we just would like to educate ourselves and be a resource for future city planning. If you know a little bit about what's going on nationally, there's a big push to look at communities to make the healthy choice the easiest choice for our citizens to make. And so while certainly healthful behaviors are a choice, we just want to look at how to make those choices the easiest ones to make through our long-term city development and planning. The future of this report, we'd love to bring you this report annually during our Public Health Week, which is always in April. We have identified some needs for this report. One is enhanced demographics and just updated data. We all know that in 2010 we have new census data, and we also have new BRFIS data, the behavioral risk data that I referred to. It's not all out yet. They release it in sections, so I anticipate that our 2012 data will be fully updated with 2010 data. We can also look at leading health indicators and causes of death by zip code. That gives us the opportunity to look at disparities within our populations. We'd love to partner with the health plans and the health systems to obtain diagnosis data for our community. If we had a sense of the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 diagnoses that our citizens currently have, that would really round out the picture of the health of Sioux Falls. We can work internally with our city departments to do some mapping. One of the tools that the CDC recommends is taking a look at what is your access to recreation, what is your access to full-service grocery, what is the walking distance of schools, are your sidewalks fully maintained and developed, if you have recreation, is it a well-lit area that's well-attended so that people feel safe to use it. These are all different ways that we can create an analysis of our community. We could involve environmental factors such as foodborne illness. And then over time, we'll be identifying our strategies, and then hopefully we'll be able to bring you with measurable goals and accomplishments year after year related to this report. Before we go on to questions and comments, I would just like to thank some people publicly for their assistance in developing this report. First is Sandy Friends. She's our public health manager, and she helped develop the first drafts of this report that serves as the foundation of what you're seeing today. The Sioux Falls School District was generous to allow us access to their height-weight data. The Sioux Falls Hypertension Initiative, including Dr. Paul Amundson, who reviewed our document and gave us a thorough critique. Representatives from both hospital systems, Sanford and Navarra, who reviewed and expressed support for moving this work forward. And then the State Department of Health, including the state nutritionist and our two state epidemiologists, who also helped review and critique our report. We also want to make it known publicly that this afternoon our report will be released on our website and it'll be available for public comment. So if people would like to review the document, our intent on public comment is really to have ideas to strengthen the document, and also if we could have partners come forward that have the same goals and objectives as we do and have opportunities to share data. We'd certainly appreciate it. So with that, Jill and I will be happy to take any questions that you have.
Questions? If not, Councilor Jameson.
I'm sorry, but it's not on your presentation today. I just would like to ask a few questions, if I could, as long as we have Jill here in the Health Department on the daycare issue that we've all been dealing with. Is there a chance we could ask a few questions regarding that?
Director Franken? Okay.
Jill? Sure. You know, surely a tragic event occurred last week, and I just felt like, because you're here today, could you just give us a quick synopsis of the very first thing that you're doing to help your department deal with this issue better, as far as the website, new planning, what you've been working on that you hope to implement? As long as you're here, I just thought the timing couldn't be more appropriate for you to help us understand that.
Sure. And to preface all of that, I take every opportunity I can to just provide our sympathies and extend our sympathies to the family who lost their infant daughter, granddaughter, sibling, end of June. We are doing actually, there's several things that we've had in our plans to date. As you know, when we brought forward to you last fall the intention that we had to strengthen, do a little bit of work to strengthen our ordinance by requiring the posting of inspections. Underneath that was a lot of effort on our part to develop an inspection process, and that took us from November until April to actually complete all of the tests, the development of a inspection tool, the testing of that inspection tool, redesigning that inspection tool, developing how that would interface, the inspection be inputted then into our software system, how that will be extracted then and allowed to be viewed by the public if they search for that data. And that took us until up to April to develop that and get that ready to go online and have that live and available. Along with that then came the intention to be able to use that tool for new facilities that are coming, that are registering with us as new family daycares. And what we then had was a pre-opening inspection, which was announced, a post-opening inspection, which is unannounced, and that allows that education, reaffirming what are the responsibilities of someone running a family daycare, what do we need to be seeing, how do they need to be complying with ordinance, and meeting all of the requirements. Then I will say also with that we do those pre-opening inspections on a fair number of daycares that never become family daycares. But what it does though is give us a chance to make sure that we keep track of them and make sure that if they choose to operate a family daycare that they've gone through the entire registration process. So then our next effort is dealing and working with those who, on the whole process we have to manage the complaints that we do receive in our department, if we do receive them regarding family daycares. And that is a combination of work that we do to respond and investigate that complaint, either by way, one of which is to do an inspection, then the next is to actually look at a more aggressive action in writing citations for those. And that's something that we then also incorporated into our process of writing a citation, issuing a citation for those daycares who are not complying with ordinance. And so that's what we have put in place. Additionally, then we put on our website the ability not only to search for inspections that have been completed, but also then to search for citations. So you can go through and there's a couple of different options to search. We then added also the ability to, on that same page, to contact our office through email, or certainly left then the option to call our office to also visit with us about any daycare that they would like to talk about or know more information about. So those are the things that we have put in place, and we continue to look at ways that we want to make that more user-friendly. We started out with what we could get up and running as quickly as possible, and then we'll continue to work with our central services and IT department and the webmasters on refinements. And Alicia, over the past at least month, has been working on those enhancements and refinements to that as we go. We also are we have been partnering with the 211 helpline to look at ways that we can partner in cross-linking information. They have an extensive website on the 211 helpline for accessing information about child care providers in the community. And so offering that link on our website, as well as their website offering access to our webpage and information as well. We've also been in discussions with them about offering educational sessions to the community, to parents, on how to select a quality daycare, and they have lent that, they've made that overture to us to partner together for that. One of the things that then I would like to create to go along with that parents can take with them is some sort of their own checklist on how to select a quality daycare that they can then use anytime they need to, that can help be prompts for them of things they need to be thinking about every day when they're bringing their children to daycare or when they're selecting a daycare initially. We also are working with the State Department of Child Care Services as well as Child Protection Services. Between Child Protection Services and the statutes at the state level that are in place, as well as the voluntary registration and requirements with the State Department of Child Care Services, along with our ordinance, we are able to partner pretty significantly in managing the family daycares in the community and being a good coalition together to be able to look at ways that we can make sure we have good information flowing about daycares no matter where the complaint originates, whether our department or South Dakota Department of Child Care Services or a call to child protection. And let's not forget the police department in that as well. They're an important partner in all of this as well that we work with. So we actually are working on our memorandums of agreement to strengthen that communication so that it happens on a more immediate basis rather than perhaps a little bit later when we get to the decision of substantiation on a case that we may be working on. So I don't know if that's in total what you were wanting me to review, but those are some of the things that we've had in place and been working on over these months.
Right, I know you've been busy and you've got a lot of things you're working on for this, and I appreciate that. If I could, at least personally express anything you need from us to help strengthen these rules and regulations to help manage this system, please engage us, because it just seems as though it's a work in progress. We know that, we get that, but I think this issue has captured the attention of all of us, and we want to get involved and participate and fix it and make it as a well-run operation as we can. So.
Absolutely. You can't have an occurrence in your community such as this without anytime we have any kind of a untoward outcome with any of our services or any area you work with, something that falls outside of what you would see in your normal everyday goings on, you sit back and you take a look at that and you use that as a point to analyze what you have in place and say, what are your takeaways to perhaps make any improvements needed that are, that should be taking place. So,
Councilor Anderson Jr.
Jill, I want to concentrate a little bit on the website. Number one, how many registered daycares do we have in Sioux Falls?
I can't
Just
give
a
you the exact
guesstimate,
number,
I
but
guess.
it's around 425.
Okay. Is there some reason why we don't have the number or the daycares listed on the website?
It's a good question. We are actually that was our next effort. We worked very extensively with the child care providers in the community that have family daycares on the inspection piece alone, and we received a lot of feedback about doing inspections and how that would all take place. And we have had conversations with them about the next steps that we were planning to engage in. That was to look at how do we develop a comprehensive listing on our website of those daycares. It is done in other states, and so we looked at how are they able to be successful in doing that, and that is something that we were going to be looking at towards the time when we were going to have the registration process. It's always towards the end of the year, and so that was something we were going to look at incorporating along with the registration process, but we may move that up.
Okay, also, when I was looking through the website here too, you have the administrative citations, and it shows the information on there, and then it shows the department that actually issued the citation. So now, if you're a user and you go to that, and that hyperlink drives you back to the original health department website. Now, if that person calls the health department and inquires on that administrative citation, do we give that information out then?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Not really a question, just a comment, because Councilor Anderson's question triggered from memory. I remember when we talked about listing all daycares that are registered in the city, we were overwhelmed with resistance, not only from the providers, but also from parents who didn't want to have their child's daycare listed with maybe one woman with the children there during the day. So there is huge resistance to that amongst parents and the daycare providers.
Councilor Erpenbach.
I don't want to interrupt the daycare conversation if those questions are complete. I have questions about the item on the agenda. So,
Go on.
okay, thank you. If I could come back to the report, you're telling us that your studies show that we're overweight, we don't eat right, we drink too much, and we smoke too much. So the question, I have two questions then. You've given us kind of a broad overview, and I know that the more detailed report is online, but can you give us an idea, some of the dreams for how you see us, how you see your department really helping change those outcomes? And then the second part of the question then is, what difference is it going to make for a city health department to come into a field where there's already private agencies? My doctor's already hounding me. The federal government is involved, all of those kinds of things. Talk about how the city might work with that situation.
Well, I'm going to answer your second question first by saying we have an amazing medical healthcare system. We have 2 health systems in our community that provide, along with the VA hospital and other entities that are able to provide us amazing care delivery. This is really taking a step and looking at before we even, it's saying, what do we need to do to reduce the incidence of needing that health care delivery to the degree that we do right now? How can we look at preventing disease and reducing the incidence of disease in our community by looking at these trends and factors and improving them? And so that's, yes, absolutely. If we're all going to need our healthcare systems, and they're a very important piece, but they've also expressed to us their willingness and desire to be partners with us in this effort. So that's one part of the dream that I have, is being a conduit for collaboration amongst our healthcare providers in the community that want to partner with us and want to be a part of the change, making change happen. But I also see interdepartmentally, some of what Alicia was talking about is the dream I have as well, that we start looking at this and saying, how do we partner with community development? How do we partner with planning? How are we sitting at the table and saying, here are the things we have to consider when we're looking at the neighborhoods that we're either building or that we are looking at redeveloping. How do we work with Parks and Recreation on ways that we can bring more outcome-based activities to the recreation side to be able to influence some of these factors, increase the physical activity? Look at those areas of the community where those things are not readily available and impact that. And how do we look at doing more with those various departments? How do we work with our wellness folks within the city and the expertise that we have with someone like Rana DeBoer to start helping us craft and think about? There's a lot of dreaming that we're ready to do and a lot of ideas that we are ready to start working towards. And then how do we get some money to do that? How do we take advantage? The time is just perfect right now with the Affordable Care Act, if that it continues to move forward, and we're hopeful that it will through the funding that the federal budget process, and how do we capitalize on that right now and take full advantage of those dollars that may be and are already being made available.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions, Councilor Rolfing?
Just a comment. Are you going to share this with the school board in hopes that they will possibly look at this for our children? Because the activity that our children are getting is ridiculous, and they've cut out half the PE that we used to get.
Sure. I will say that some of the reason we were able to get such good data from the Sioux Falls School District is because they actually have some initiatives and some pilot projects that I believe are being made that are broadening with looking at their obesity and overweight children and looking at their statistics, and actually have set aims for themselves of improving that, and have set up some really pretty significant wellness initiatives within the school district for those kids to get actual case management and sort of like a personal trainer, if you will. I hate to paraphrase that too much for them because it's really their story to share, but they are trying to affect that particular trend that we were sharing with you. But yes, certainly we'll be sharing this with them and bringing them to the table along with the others that we mentioned.
Any further questions? If not, our thanks.
Thank you.
Next, we have our Event Center update by Director Cotter.
Thank you, Council Chair and Council members. Mark Cotter with the Office of Public Works. Tonight we will continue to give you a monthly update on the Event Center. There's a number of items that have been done over the last 30 days, and you'll see that tonight on many levels. Before we start, we want to remind everyone that we do have a dedicated page on the website for Event Center updates. There's also a way to actually provide direct comments on the presentations and plans. Also, all of these presentations are streamed on there as well as your system. There's copies of the presentation as you came in. If you don't have one, we welcome the people that are here today to pick up a copy of the presentation. Today's focus will be to provide you an update on a number of different areas. First of all will be selection of bond counsel and an update on the ballot language that's been underway with both the administrative staff and and City Council members. Mortensen Construction will provide an update on the cost model and the detailed work that they're doing with local contractors to get some market pricing right here in Sioux Falls. St. Combs Defless and Koch Hazard Architects will provide an update on the plan views, but also, as you came in today, you started to see renderings, pedestrian level views of what this facility will actually look like, how it fits into the site, and really start to bring a sense of place to how it actually does fit in. The mayor will introduce a video fly-through to give you another sense of how it fits on that campus and also identify the next steps. So let's get started. City Attorney David Fifley will give you an update on the bond council selection and ballot language. David?
Madam Chair and other members of the council, Dave Fifley with the Office of the City Attorney. I'm going to provide you with a brief legal update. I know you rarely hear a lawyer say a brief presentation, but I'll do my best. First of all, on the bond council, a request for proposals was submitted on or about June 3rd of this year, and there has been some issues raised out in the public on the wording of that particular request for proposals. And I'd like to just kind of allay some of those fears that have been expressed. The election on the event center, if this council decides to have it, would be an advisory election. It would not be a binding election. By state statute, there is a mechanism where this council can issue bonds that are backed by sales tax dollars without requiring a public vote. However, this council and certainly Mayor Huther have made it very clear on many occasions that no such project would be undertaken without the full confidence and approval of the electorate. And in that respect, the request for proposals was written in such a way to provide for contingencies in case you folks make a final determination that you don't want to go ahead with this project. And it also contained contingencies so that the bond council would be on basically the bonds would have to be issued or there would be no fee. So the request for proposals indicated that an election may occur. You folks are the only ones who can actually call for an election. You haven't made that vote yet. And also it provides that if the election fails, there would be no fee for the bond council. We were just being totally upfront with the presenters for applications on bond council so that there would be no questions, and when we came upon a later contract with the one selected, there would be no issues in terms of, well, you never told me that it would be contingent on bonds actually issuing. We have had a selection committee, and we thank Councilors Jamison and Karski for their leadership and guidance with that process. The request for proposals and also the 5 different bond council that were submitting applications is freely available on the city's website. For those of you at home, it's very easy to find. You just go to siouxfalls.org, type in a keyword, bond council request, and it'll pull you right to that page. It'll give you links to the request for proposal and also the 5 applicants. The committee met and determined we would interview 3 different bond council firms, and those interviews were done on July 6th. And now this week, we will be hopefully in negotiations with the bond council that we hope to have a contract with. And at this point, I can safely say that all 3 of those that were interviewed were all very strong candidates, and we'd be comfortable with any one of those 3. And again, we thank Councilors Karski and Jamison for their assistance. On the ballot language issue, we are hoping to finalize some draft ballot language by July 25th. We are working with Councilors Anderson, Councilor Brown, and also the City Clerk, Deborah Owen, on election issues, no matter when that election would be held, if it's this November, April of 2012, or November of 2012. As we just want to be ready no matter when you folks decide that an election should take place. We are hoping to have some final draft language to submit to the bond council that's selected for their final input and approval in terms of any legalities with the sales tax bonds that may be issued as a result of that. And we hope to have something for your review in the coming weeks, and hopefully by August 1. And with that, I'll answer any questions you may have.
Questions for City Attorney Fifley? Councilor Jameson.
I should know all these answers because I was in most of those meetings, but do you have a calendar or schedule of events that need to occur in order for the November election to occur, like the date that the council needs to decide whether we want to have an election, the date that the language would be approved? Do you have that kind of a sequence of events laid out for us?
Yeah, Councilor Jameson, that is what the election group is working on, and we have a working draft in terms of those deadlines, but for the near future, it would be to have at least a draft for your review by August 1. And certainly in terms of how you folks want to act upon that, we just want to be ready so that no matter when you folks finally decide when to have the election, we'll be ready, either at the earliest or we'll certainly be well prepared in advance if you decide to hold it in April or the following November. But I don't have the actual template with me, and I certainly didn't memorize it.
Okay.
Other questions? If not, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. All right, our next update is from Mortensen Construction. Dan Mills out of Minneapolis will provide you an update on the work that they've been undertaking to, again, provide us cost certainty on the schematic drawings that have been developed. Dan?
Thank you, Mark, Madam Chair, members of the council. We really are entering a very exciting stage of the project now. We have very detailed specifications and a thick set of schematic design documents now that we can start digging into. We received this package on June 27th from the design team, and so we've got 5 estimators working full-time, putting together a detailed estimate, plus Greg's time and my time. The first step is to do a very detailed quantity survey, quantity takeoff, where we're measuring all of the cubic yards of concrete, the square footage of glass, the acreage of site, the tons of steel, square foot of block. We're doing a detailed measurement of all of the different parts and pieces and components. And then on top of that, we're putting in our assumptions for elements that currently don't show up on the design yet. They'll eventually will show up on the design, but based on past history of building these buildings, we'll put our assumptions into the survey as well. Secondly, then, we are engaging the local subcontracting community. We've sent out over 200 letters to local subcontractors asking for their input to help us with the budget pricing, and have gotten overwhelming support and encouragement. We're very excited that we've got local mechanical, electrical, steel, drywall, concrete, precast contractors that are looking through these drawings now and providing us real market cost input on what the project could cost. So we're collecting that information. We'll then are also putting together a very detailed critical path schedule that outlines all of the critical steps it takes to build the building, finishing the design after the November vote, and then all the activities to construct the building. So we're anticipating that construction could start late summer, early fall of 2012. And about a 24-month construction schedule would finish up in the fall of 2014. So we're building that schedule, testing it right now. And we use that schedule to inform the estimate of what work activities would take place during the winter versus the summer and how to appropriately estimate that. We'll take all of this cost information then, and we'll sit down with the architects and the engineers and review it line item by line item so that they can have input on the assumptions that we've made or change our assumptions as necessary, and together we work through the constructability of the building. That again informs the estimate and helps us get a more refined, detailed estimate. Ultimately then, we will pull those numbers together so that we can provide information by the July 25th date that David referred to, and then in the first week of August, we'll sit down with the city and have a very detailed review of the estimate, including alternates and enhancements We'll have those as well. Should we get competitive bids, we may be able to upgrade the building with additional enhancements. Some of the challenges we're dealing with, and I've probably made reference to these earlier, is cost escalation. Oil prices are driving the cost of construction up right now, as well as a shortage of structural steel. So we are carrying higher escalation costs than what were contemplated back when the budgets of $99.5 million were established. We're also carrying higher contingencies than those numbers before. At our recommendation, these projects can be risky, so we're recommending higher contingencies now than what were carried. Again, that's the city's money. If we don't need to use the contingencies, that's fine. So that's a general update on where we are with doing the detailed cost estimate. Any questions?
Questions for Dan? Councilor Karski.
I guess I have one question. You mentioned a construction date starting of fall of 2012. What's the timeline, or where did that date come from? And I guess what would the timeline be for beginning construction based on a final voter approval if it was affirmative?
If you're presuming a approved vote of November 8th? Yeah, those are the dates that I laid out were based on making that presumption. So if the vote is positive on November 8th, then we'll launch into design development and then construction documents. We'll peel off some early packages so that we can bid the site work and utilities and the steel early, and then that would support a start of construction in the fall of 2012. If the vote were pushed out into April, then everything else, all of those dates would be pushed out linear.
So you need a 9 to 10 month window once approval's done to turn the dirt.
That's right. There's a lot of work that has to do to complete a detailed design and then go through the public procurement process and order materials and have them delivered in time so that we could start in the fall of 2012.
Councilor Jameson.
As of today, your best guess still on the price is $110 million?
We do believe the number's still going to be between $100 and $120 million. And we'll have a list of alternates as well.
Councilor Brown.
And just for clarification again, tell me when that drop-dead date will be that you will have that final price tag.
Well, we will have a number that will inform the ballot information on July 25th, and then the week after, we need to do a thorough review of what's in that number with the city staff.
Thank you.
Other questions for Dan? If not, thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
All right. Also, an update between Mortensen Construction and St. Combs. Those two have teamed up under their fee structure to fund the geotechnical work, and so we've actually taken geotechnical borings out on the arena site, so we have a very good understanding of where the rock shelf is so they can get an accurate estimate on the foundation design. It takes some more of that uncertainty out of the estimate. All right, next we will bring up St. Combs Def Lifts and Coke Hazard. Mike Harvey with St. Combs Def Lifts and Jeff Hazard will take you through updated floor plans, building renderings, and the mayor will come up when we start the video. One of the things we want to highlight is that the video was produced primarily by in-house staff. We've got very talented people in our GIS team as well as media services. They've worked really close with the architects to insert their images, and we hope that you're pleased with the video that you'll see. So right now let's get started with Mike Harvey with St. Combs Def Lifts. Mike?
Good evening. You've seen these plans many times before, but they've been further developed, tightened up, met with consultants, mechanical, structural, to get all the appropriate systems in there, the user groups, the teams, taken their considerations, tightened up the connection between the existing convention center and the event center. And this is at grade, so you walk right up to the building and you walk to the main lobby, which is on the south side. It's a 4-story lobby. Looking up, you'll see those later in the renderings in the video. There's also 2 other lobbies to the west to address the parking that's surrounding that area. That lobby is the direct concert access. There's concessions, there's restrooms to serve people on this level. Going up a floor is the main concourse. Main concourse has a number of great views to the bowl. The whole east side of the flat end of the arena, you can walk right up, have a view to the bowl, stand at a bar height table. There's also a public club to the north and a public club to the west. And again, those are really popular in today's venues for people of any ticket price that can kind of hang out in their little club and overlook the game. If they're not too terribly interested in the game, they usually just sit in the club and socialize with their friends. Then there's a private club, dead center on the south side, where it could be flexible. It could be a private club for the if they want an exclusive setup, which is more of a sports venue. For concert venue, they usually open these things up and they become just another public club. We have generous restrooms scattered all the way around the concourse. We exceed the code, which is very good for females. The old standard was, as we know, not adequate, but we have generously exceeded that. And then the escalators and stairs coming on the south lobby, stepping up the side of the building, which again you'll see in the renderings, and the two stairs off to the west addressing those two entries. Floor up is the suite level. Suite level is what we believe is a good amount of suites. There's about 19 right now, but it's flex with 2 party suites, but depending on how you sell those or what the market is, there could be more party suites and less private suites. And that's just something we'll dice up later as to how many seats per suite and size of those. Again, restrooms, we well exceed the code on this level. There's a bar, a buffet area to the west with a balcony overlook. Again, you'll see that in the renderings. Next floor up is the upper concourse. And the upper concourse is for your max capacities, anything over, let's see, I should know this number off the top of my head. Anything over like 9,000, you'd be using this level. So it's not going to be used as often, it's more scarce in amenities, but still adequate for those 10 events you might have every year. And then this is the full bowl, full max capacity for basketball, which is 12,000. And then when you have concert, you fill in the floor, and you have just a little bit under because you lose some seats for the stage. Building section, just identifying the relationship of at grade to the event level. Then upper level is main concourse. Upper level from that is a suite to the upper concourse, and then the long span truss system and all the dirty details of keeping out the weather and controlling the environment within the arena. And now I'd like to introduce Jeff Hazard, who we've been working with closely in building imaging.
Thank you, Mike. Jeff Hazard with Cook Hazard Architects. It's pretty exciting to have this opportunity to show you what the building is actually beginning to look like. This is a view on your screen of the building as if you were in a hot air balloon on the southwest, to the southwest of the facility. What we're doing with the site is simplifying vehicular access. We're simplifying circulation through the site. We're adding parking, as we've discussed before, and yet we're intensifying landscaping, and through the use of native plantings will make landscaping a more significant element of the site. We're improving the pedestrian experience by reorienting the parking and by creating improved entry pathways and entry plazas at the entrances to the facility. We're highlighting entries with some covered canopies, as well as a higher proportion of glass. The building itself is mostly metal and glass, but it's anchored to the site with quartzite, stone, and architectural precast panels, which you can see as sort of that little bit dark pink or purple material that's on the south side of the building. The stairwells are actually inside that in elevators, but using the native materials helps anchor this building in our community. And then coming out from the face of that is the key entry element, which builds, and actually tilts out at the main lobby and provides space for the vertical circulation that we'll see in upcoming views. One other thing is important is that sort of quartzite element, that rectangular piece, also ties this building back to the convention center, which also has that sort of quartzite architectural precast element at its face. As we approach the building from the south toward the main entry, you'll see a significant sign identifying the event center. This could be a permanent sign. It could be banners that are related to specific events. You'll see canopies. You'll see poles with banners. And as I mentioned earlier, at the entry, you'll see a higher proportion of glass, and then as you move away from the entry, there'll be somewhat less glass, more metal. We're trying to make this a facility that our fellow citizens can be very proud of, while trying to be very good stewards of the community's resources. As we approaching it at night, the glass offers opportunities for light to come out of the building to display to the community all of the exciting things that are happening inside, just as during the day light comes in and we have a very well lit with natural light interior lobby and concourse. Coming into the lobby, and I'll point out the Choluli element in the middle there is just a sort of a placeholder for what we thought might be an opportunity for some public art competition, maybe locally here in Sioux Falls.
We're having a real hard time estimating that right now.
Yeah. We did that just for Dan. So this is a view look inside the lobby, sort of shows that four-story height. Looking back toward the ticketing area, so as you come in from the right side of this view, you come into a lower ceilinged area with the ticketing and information straight ahead, and then from that lower area you come into that four-story space. So we're kind of using that as a way to heighten the drama of actually entering the lobby. And this is looking in the other direction. You see the base of one of those quartzite and precast elements, and then the stairs and escalators sort of drawing your eye up to the upper levels of the concourses. Coming up onto the concourse level, you can kind of get a feeling for the amount of light that comes into that space. And again, from outside at night, you'll see all of this activity, all of this circulation, all these people enjoying themselves from the outside. So the building will be very clear about what it is and what it does. So in this view, we're standing on the main concourse, which is the primary access into the lower portion of the bowl. The next level up is the suite concourse, and then the level above that is the upper concourse, which provides access to the 3,500 or so seats that are in that upper bowl. And then you can just begin to see, some thinking about how the concession areas and the restrooms might be designed around the concourses. We're also suggesting, and I'm not sure we've quite negotiated this with Dan yet, but we're suggesting the possibility of some panels made of prairie materials like wheat board or sorghum board in the ceilings. But these are little issues we are working out as we work through this cost estimating process. And I'll turn it back over to Mike to talk about the suites in the bowl.
This is our renderers showing you what a potential suite would look like. Suite would have a sink, catered event, would have warmers. You have a bar height seating area that's within the suite. You have comfortable couch seating and chair seating if you're not necessarily watching the event, and then fixed seating a couple stairs down to watch the event. This is the popularity of hockey when you get a new event. This is 10,000 screaming fans religiously following your teams. And as you can see in this rendering, the upper bowl could easily be curtained off if the popularity isn't quite hitting 10,000. You need to curtain it off into a smaller event. The flat end there you see in the far end of the rendering, we often call it the proscenium, but that's one of those open views where people can just walk along there and overlook the bowl. And that flat end and that seating section right in the flat end is where you put the concert show. It's right to the back of house, easy load in, load out. And again, that is about 11,500 fans right there watching George Strait at your grand opening. I believe. Oh.
Thank you. What we thought we'd do is just take a couple minutes, just kind of give you a little perspective on what it would be like to be a Sioux Falls resident attending their concert or attending their rodeo or attending their convention or attending their high school graduation. Sioux Falls, you've waited long enough. Let's just give you a little perspective. We again want to thank you for this opportunity to engage the City Council and the people in Sioux Falls on this very, very important event. This is a topic we've been talking a lot about. We had, again, the local flavor of someone like Jeff Hazard trying to get you excited about talking about things like putting this type of granite there or this type of inside there to kind of give it a local flavor. And then we brought this national firm in to help us design this, just like they've done all over the country, but to make it as strong as possibly can be for our great city. Folks, that was a George Strait concert. Could have easily been a Christian rock concert, and as you folks know, we do that very, very well in the summer months, but can you only imagine a Christian concert full of people during the coldest months of the year in Sioux Falls as well? Before I go through the timeline, again, I wanted to reiterate, all of this is available for you to see on www.siouxfalls.org. Councilor Erpenbach and Councilor Brown and many others, they talk about how we want this to be transparent. We want this to be available and open to all of the people, not just the City Council. Councilor Erpenbach, I think, does a great job trying to promote this website. If you have questions, if you have comments, go to this site. We've updated the Events Center aspect of the website at 5 o'clock today, and so you can get as much information there as you possibly want. One of the things that I think was also very, very exciting, and I don't want you to lose sight of this, is that there were a couple of hundred letters that were sent to local subcontractors here in Sioux Falls to try to get them involved in this 100 to 120 million project. They all want a piece of the pie. And we want them to have a piece of the pie. These are jobs that will be created within our city. These are revenues that will be generated within our city. These will be sales taxes that will be generated within our city before the thing even opens. And it couldn't be happening at a better time. There are still people hungry for jobs, hungry for work, hungry for opportunity, hungry for this and hungry for that. This will certainly help them with that opportunity. There are even small subcontractors that are pooling their resources together in hopes to gain a piece of this work. Also, I know Councilor Brown is very, very engaged in this aspect of this puzzle. We are working hard to try to get you the most solid financial projections that we can. It has taken some time, but that's why we made the investments that we've made with these resources that are out there. In the past, when we talked about this, we speculated. We guessed on what they could be. Now we are putting some real concreteness to not only what this thing will look like, but also how much it will cost to ultimately build. I think one thing is also very clear, and it was stated again today. The longer we wait, the greater the expense. And then last but not least, I do want to recognize the City Council. Sioux Falls, your city councilors have become more and more engaged in this critical project for your city. And we're very, very pleased. We're learning from each other. And like I've said before, working together, there's absolutely nothing that we can't accomplish for the people of Sioux Falls and for this state and for this area. How are we going to get there? Well, there are still some things that we have to do. And I want to take you on a very, very brief timeline here. Tracy Turbach will be back to talk about this bond financing and provide an update, along with talking about the operating expenses that we project for this facility. Then a couple days later, again, I want to engage the public. I want to answer their questions as best that I can. And we'll do that again on July 20th at 6 p.m. With another public Q&A session. On July 28th, there's an important day for our city. As it happens every year, the mayor gives his or her best projection on what the expenses will be for the city. I'll do that on July 28th at 1:30. Then, as we've tried to relay not only to the people of Sioux Falls but to the City Council, we're hoping that we've put enough meat on the bone to build enough confidence amongst this City Council that they can really have a solid dialogue on this potential special election and, yes, whether to place this on the ballot. And then on August 8th, right now we have scheduled another Event Center update at 4 p.m. but we'll play that by ear depending on what the council would recommend at that time. Again, we want to thank you for the opportunity to engage you, the City Council, and of course help inform the people of Sioux Falls on what's going on with this project. At this time, we'd love to open up for any questions that you may have.
Questions for the mayor? Councilor Jameson.
Was there a committee for councilors to be involved in the building? Was there a building committee like there was a bond committee? Do you remember? Do you know who's on the building committee? You are, and
Councilor
Aguilar and Councilor Intiman.
I think I see the sign that they have proposed here. I mean, I guess what I'm asking is, are you looking for feedback? Are you kind of just showing us what you've decided? Or are you looking for any input here?
Well, I don't think anything's ultimately been decided.
Well,
but I think what will happen now, as the presenters have outlined, is they'll continue to tweak this more and more to determine what's going to be inside it, how it's going to look, what the upgrades will be or not be. I think probably best to explain that process would be one of you gentlemen. How does this normally work when you build something of this magnitude? Would you mind?
Well, if I understand it, I mean, the plans are right here. I mean, you're going to be bidding this project out, so you've pretty well got it set, I would think.
What you have here is schematic design, and it's the first month, 2-month process of a 10-month design process. Meeting with the user groups, I mean, the best way to get feedback is to put something out there and have people look at it, people comment, positive, negative, and then go back and readjust and redesign, and hopefully we haven't hit the mark. We haven't totally missed the mark, but we obviously, this is not set in stone that it's the final.
Very, very good. I get that.
Okay.
I just wanted to add that I think the location of the name that you've got there in the blue, the event center, Sioux Falls, just for naming rights purposes only. I mean, you would want that sign visible from. Yeah. Okay. So I just little things like that. Okay.
Councilor Jameson, one of the things to remember from the naming rights presentation that was given is that's just some of the things that will be negotiated when they identify that firm. For example, they may want their name in this particular location along with this one or that one, but that, again, hasn't been decided. I think just for the purposes of generating some excitement, at least giving you a flavor of what the potential could be, that's what they did here today.
One other, just on the, I was expecting to see this cool fly-through animation where, you could see a hockey puck fly or something. Is that coming? Are we going to get that?
Well, Councilor Jameson, to be fair, we've been asked to be very, very prudent with the taxpayer dollar. In fact, I think you've reiterated that a couple of times. I wish that stuff comes for free, but it doesn't. So what we did is we utilized the resources of our team within city government, along with the help of these men, and we actually did it for free. We'd love to do something even cooler. But there's an expense with that, and we didn't get a feeling that the City Council was ready to spend money on that type of fluff at this point in time.
Was it part of the original RFP, or was that? I just thought I heard that that's what we would see because of the software is so readily, easily available to demonstrate that. But
I can't answer that.
Okay.
I didn't write the RFP, but Mark, maybe you can.
One of the things that when we wrote the original RFP, we wanted to make sure that the architects and the engineers used BIM, which is building model software. The majority of what, like a Mortensen construction would use that for is collision review. So if a structural beam was running into a duct, but this is as close as we can deliver at this cost at this point.
Councilor Intiman.
Mark, could you just, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, Mark, could you just explain a little bit about the process we have going on tomorrow? I mean, Sue and I are meeting, I believe, tomorrow morning.
Right,
with your
just
design group.
Similar to other group discussions that have happened on bond council. as we get counselors engaged, is we're having an informal design review to look at it from a visitor fan experience, from a teams, and an operations. And so it just allows us to continue to refine. If you have comments like the sign and things of that nature, we can take those and incorporate them. So it'll just give us a sense of taking a look at the design. So it's an informal design review that we're going to conduct tomorrow.
Any other questions? Councillor Jameson.
And if I could, Councillor, if you wouldn't mind, even if if this were to pass in November, you still do design work and upgrade things over time, don't you? Please, could you explain that to the council, please?
The traditional design process would be a schematic design, design development, and then construction documents. We're taking the design right now just through schematic design, which allows us enough information to price the high-risk critical activities so we can build confidence on what the building will cost. And then after the vote, we would go into design development where we'd refine the design, have more input on where certain elements would be within the building or on the building. We could move signage around and fine-tune the details. And then we would go into construction documents, and those would be the drawings that would be used to bid the work and build from.
And too, if I could, one of the things that I found intriguing last month is I actually asked a question of these experts that we've hired. I asked them, how do we compare in terms of how far along we are in the process in terms of other cities that they've engaged where they've had to go to their voters to ask for their opinion or to ask for them to vote yes or no on a major investment like this? The answer I received was, Sioux Falls, you're much farther ahead than normal, and that really caught me off guard, and I was quite pleased. But could you reiterate that just a little bit for the council? I think there is probably an inherent fear that, oh my gosh, we're rushing this, when in reality, because of all the work that we've done, because of the challenges that you presented to us to make sure that we would be ready, I think we've done just that and maybe more. Would you mind?
Mortensen was asked the question, how does this process compare to other processes we've been involved in these building types? And our response is that you have to find that right balance of progressing a design to a certain point so that you can have confidence in what it'll cost and in confidence in what you're presenting is what you're actually going to build. But that you have to spend money to progress the design to that point. And in our experience in supporting other customers that have gone out for public approval for a project, Sioux Falls is advancing through the process deeper than others have. Others have elected to only go through maybe concept design or 50% schematic design, then go out for a vote, and then finish the design. So it is a very prudent process that we're going through here, in our opinion.
Councillor Jameson.
I would just add to follow up in that conversation. I didn't intend to, but I think a fair question would have been, where are we in this process compared to other cities? That's fair, but as well as how much have we spent compared to other cities to get this far? Are we at the same point others would be?
And
you asked half the question, not all.
I can't answer that question, and I don't. Would you be able to answer that question?
Permission for a little sarcasm?
You bet. We love it here.
The city negotiated very competitive fees with us and the design team for this amount of work that we're doing right now. So you're paying less than what others would have paid for progressing the design this far. And it sounds sarcastic, but that's actually true.
Councillor Anderson, Jr.
Yes, just a comment back to Mr. Jameson. I guess something like this with the sign and that, too, would also fall under naming rights as we go forward looking for businesses to join as partners. Signage would be something I think would fall under there. And you look at that whole sports complex, you may want to, find somebody, who knows, maybe like a local South Dakota company that might want to partner with us to put a sign on the corner of that complex explaining the different variety of shows and options that they're having there. So I think that once again, it's just a placeholder.
Councilor Jameson.
The question I really wanted to ask was, is there another facility like this somewhere nearby that is similar in shape and size and color that you've seen that we could go see or that maybe we've attended?
The answer would be yes, and it would be no at the same time. Similar bowl, I would say, tier system would be in Winnipeg, the MTS Center. They just got awarded the Atlanta Thrashers. So we did that building up there, and we really learned a lot of good things about how to lay out a building about this size. And so as far as a bowl perspective, it has very similar qualities. The openness that I talked about in the open clubs, they have one. It's hugely popular, and we've replicated the popularity in this one. So it's slightly unique, as it should be for Sioux Falls. And then exterior-wise, I mean, every building's different. I just got to be honest on that regard.
That's fine. I was just curious if I had happened to be in one by chance or have seen one, or if I wanted to go into one, where I'd go. That's
we welcome tours. I mean, at this point, and prior to this point, and well into the process. I mean, the more buildings you see, and the more buildings that you can give us feedback on. I like this. I don't like that. It just helps feed the, strengthen the design and get it to the building that everyone wants. I mean, so it'd be great to go on that tour if you're interested.
And I would reiterate Mike's suggestion that a tour would be great because it helps everybody establish a consistent vocabulary about when we talk about a certain thing, what does that mean? What you have some visual images that you can refer to. But I think we are working hard to make this facility unique to Sioux Falls. I mean, it's going to take advantage of everything that St. Combs Deathless knows and that Mortensen knows about all the facilities they've done around the rest of the country. But we really want to ground this facility in this community, and there are a variety of ways in which we will be doing that. The other thing I wanted to point out, and this has been alluded to earlier as well, is that for the next several months, this design that you see, this preliminary design that you see, schematic design, will be sort of on the road, being presented to a wide variety of groups and individuals, and we are very interested in feedback. And so we have the time from now, here we are in July, until the time that that this goes to a bond election, goes to an election, to present this to people and to get feedback. And then we'll have that feedback, that information that we can then apply to the design as it goes forward. So what we start with in whether it's December or some other date will be information that we don't have today. It'll be feedback that we get from the community that we will then incorporate into the design.
Any other questions? If not, thank you, Mayor. Is there any other business to come before this body? If not, this meeting is adjourned.